latest episode of the Claus Corner. Today's guests are members of the Connecticut power metal band Sacred Oath. In 1987, they released their debut album, A Crystal Vision, which went on to garner cult classic status as one of the pioneer efforts of the American power metal movement. 35 years later, and with some lineup changes, they are still together, touring and releasing great music. So, without further ado, please welcome guitarist and singer Rob Thorne, drummer Kenny Evans, and guitarist/keyboardist Damiano Christian to the Claus Corner. How are you guys?
Hey, we're good.
Very good, thank you.
I am so glad to have you on the show. Kenny, you weren't there last time, but you, Rob, and there was somebody else from Sacred Oath that was at my last radio show before the pandemic hit. You were the last recording, second to the last recording. Yep, it was March of 2020. Maybe a week later, the whole world shut down. So I'm so glad to have you back since the world is opening up. And I want to start off with, you're going to be doing your debut at Crystal Bees in Southington on May 7th. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
okay, go.
Okay, go. Well,
Go ahead,
it's been
Rob.
3 years. It's been 3 years, Rich, since we've performed. So
Really?
we're really looking forward to it.
And I think the last time you performed was at Toad's place.
Exactly. Yeah, so the last show we did was in Connecticut, but it was in 2019. And it was, at least 6 months before things started to shut down. But, we were done with the 12 Bells tour. That was the last show. Actually, we had just put out Thundarr Underground, which was a live album from 12 Bells. And we sort of were going to end the tour with that and celebrate that CD and kind of coast for a little bit and put together what would become Return of the Dragon. And next thing you know, it was literally, you're talking about that interview. I think we even talked about Return of the Dragon a little bit.
We did, yeah.
And
it wasn't released yet. You were still in the finishing stages of it.
oh, well, if it was 2020, though, we were in the beginning stages of it because, it had been written, but I can remember like I was in California and things started getting hairy out there. And I got back to Connecticut and literally the first thing I did was get on the phone with Kenny and say, something's about to go down. And why don't we start recording this record like next weekend? Kind of like the way we did Darkness Visible. except Kenny was expecting it this time.
Yeah.
And it was, and it was mostly about, as it always is with making a Sacred Oath record, we rehearse, and then it's about getting Kenny and I to just go through the structure of the songs in the studio. And that was it. Like in the next week he came in. I think actually we started Kenny on Leap Day.
We were actually ahead of the game with this one, where Rob was demoing and sending demos over to me, and I was rehearsing, and we were back and forthing a lot with structure and really nailing it down to the point where once Rob said it's time to come in and start tracking, it was all of the ducks were in a row. So it was actually a lot of fun doing this one. We did a couple of things a little bit differently and a couple of experiments. But in terms of, being ready, Rob demoed a lot, and Rob sent everything over to me. And I think most of the boys who were involved in this recording were ready before the gun shot, so to speak.
Now, Rob and Kenny, you two are the original members. You two are the original members left. Are you two the main songwriters for the music?
It's mostly Rob.
Mostly Rob? Okay.
Yeah.
So Rob will do the song, then he'll send out demos to the rest of the band members, and they could add in their fills, like Damiano will add in a guitar solo, and you give it to the bass player. Very cool. So you mentioned before you have your own studio. So you record everything into your own studio.
Yeah. Yeah, which makes it very, easy for me. it's we record
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
we record when we're inspired to record. For me, it's always oh, I just wrote 12 songs or 10 songs, and we're starting a record next week because I don't know, I got some time. And Kenny's like, I was wondering what was taking you so long.
It's just how we roll. It works.
It works. It's true though. Kenny, what Kenny says is true. We were probably more more prepared. We were as prepared for this album almost as we were for Crystal Vision, and no other album in between were we this prepared for.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking mostly for Kenny and I.
Yeah.
I mean, Damiano doesn't have much to compare it to, but Kenny knows that basically every Sacred Oath record was sort of put together. It was like, here are the ideas, and we would work it out in the studio and just record. And we've been together so long that we were able to get tracks really quickly that way.
Yeah.
But for this record, it was more about more preparation as just a way of changing things up, of giving us some freedom and some time to process and maybe make some changes as we were going into it. And
definitely allowed ourselves the time to flesh out a song, to allow some dynamics, and we didn't start recording until we knew we were ready. So yeah.
Yeah, but you have to admit there wasn't a whole lot that changed between the demos and the record. It was the demos, the main thing that we gathered from the demos was really how we wanted the record to sound and how we wanted to go about recording it. So the demos actually ended up having the biggest impact on the method of the way we recorded.
Right. I think it parsed away ideas we wanted to keep and ideas that we thought maybe we'll use some other time. Not everything. Rob wrote a ton of stuff, and there wasn't not everything that he wrote ended up on the record. There was a couple other really good ideas that he had that just it time-wise didn't fit. But it did help me where I went over certain songs more than a few times with different ideas and different approaches, and I would send them over to Rob, and I was like, what do you think of this? And he would send back, well, I was thinking a little more like this, and I would revise and send back. And so there was it wasn't just one and done. There was a lot of collaboration on ideas, and
there was a lot of back and forth. It's true.
It really was more so on this record than the previous ones, except for
it's true. Usually we would condense that into the one recording session, and here we spread that out over a few months.
Exactly.
Now, do you like to record as a band together? The reason I'm asking is because I've spoken with some musicians who said they have not been in a recording studio as a band since 1994, way before COVID. And then I was talking to David Ellison last night, and he was telling me that he loves being in the studio because it sparks the creativity. He'll hear the drummer playing something. It's like, hey, wait a minute, let me try this. And that turns into a completely different song. Do you find that jamming together and being in the same room together could change the song and it's much better of a recording experience?
I don't think that Kenny and I, as being sort of the kind of two structural pillars of the music itself, and when we lay it down in the studio, we have no need to sit in a room together and like brainstorm ideas. We've just been doing this together for too long for that to be necessary. I write a riff and Kenny hears it, and he pretty much knows instantly where it's going. And he says, oh yeah, I'll play this. And it's like, oh yeah, perfect. I mean, what he's talking about with back and forth with ideas is like a few things. Is like,
A
oh, I
few
kind of
things,
have
yeah.
this more. Yeah, a few
Yeah.
things here and there. But we are so on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
98% of the time.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. I met you originally, I want to say 1986, when I bought your demo, Shadow Out of Time. So you two have been together a really long time. I know there was a little hiatus in between, but for the most part, you two have been together with different lineups. And I want to talk about that. But originally, you had, I know Glenn was not the original guitar player. It was somebody else before Glenn. But I met you guys when Glenn was in the band. Wayne, yes.
Wayne Cristiano was the second guitar player.
Yeah.
And we did the first demo with him, the Shadow Out of Time demo.
Yeah. Then Glenn Christiani came into the band.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He came in. Well, he came in
Before that. He came in from before Crystal Vision.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he came in. Wayne did the first. I don't know if Rich remembers the Masonic Temple shows.
Yes, I do, in Bethel.
There was two of them. Wayne did the first one. Glenn did the second one.
Okay.
So, and once Glenn was in the band, that's when things really started accelerating towards writing for a Crystal Vision. With Wayne, we were still coming out of, and Rob can elucidate on the, more about that, but we were still coming out of Shadow Out of Time with Wayne and the Masonic show. But soon after that show, Wayne kind of opted out.
Okay.
And
yeah, it was becoming too much of a commitment for him. You got to remember, Rich, things were happening very fast back then. When we were in it, everything seemed like eternity. But I look back and I'm like, wow, pretty much all that stuff happened within 18 months.
and we were 16 and 17 and 18 years old.
I remember, you guys were still in high school, and I remember buying your demo. I met you guys at Phoenix Records, partied with you a bunch of times, had some great times. But yeah, all of a sudden, bam, Mercenary Records said, we want to sign you. And that was what year was that? 1986. I know it was 1987 was when the album came out, or 1988, like those years.
Right in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for a quick timeline, Pete and I came up with the idea for this band in 85 and started jamming just the two of us and looked for a drummer, which it seemed for an eternity. It was probably a week, went through a couple drummers, found a guy, made the first demo, and it was like, whoa. It was like we just made a recording, and it really started to catch on. That's what really changed things for the band. But that was all within 6 months. Next thing you know, it was like, okay, well, this drummer's not going to work out. We need another guy. And we had already played with Kenny in another band for a few months in high school. So, and Kenny was coming to the rehearsals. So it was like, Kenny, join the band. Boom.
I was the artist for the band, and I would attend all of the rehearsals, and they discussed the newsletter covers and artwork that they wanted for their demos.
Just see one of them right here.
Yeah, that's it.
I did that. Yeah. Yep. I remember March of 87. Wow.
Well, what I have to say about you guys, not only were you extremely talented, I bought 3 demos because I kept going through them over, and I played it so many times.
We only had 2.
Well, no, I bought the demo, and I wore it out so many times. I actually bought 3 of the same demo. Shadow Out of Time.
That's great. That's
awesome.
You guys were the master of marketing. I just want to say something. You guys were the master of marketing. Not only did you have a newsletter that you sent out to all your fans, and you had different things that you did, and I mean, out of the blue, I don't know if you remember how we met. In your demo, it said, if you get 10 friends to write, we'll give you a free T-shirt. I went to high school the next day, had 10 friends write, and that's when Pete and Rob called me. Hey, Rich, let's meet at Phoenix Records. And you guys, I said, not only extremely talented, but you're the master of marketing. You got your name out there in all over Connecticut. And that's why in my intro, I said you guys are the pioneers of power metal. And I stand by that.
Pre-internet.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
pre-internet. Yeah, we were doing the internet earlier than everybody else, but it was with Scotch tape and Elmer's glue.
Oh yeah.
And
Grassroots.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, because those demos that you bought 3 times, I was making by hand with photocopied paper, cut with
Putting the
scissors,
scotch, putting the
Elmer's
scotch
glue,
tape. Yeah.
and cutting. I was doing it all myself on my high school yearbook. I ruined it. It was covered in glue and all cut up with razor blades. Like, literally, the demo factory was in my bedroom, and record broker would call us, "We're all sold out again," and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I got to make more demos." And
Yeah.
I'd make like 30 or 40 of them, because it took a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And boom, we sold hundreds of demos at Record Broker in Danbury, and then ultimately Phoenix Records in Waterbury.
Yeah.
And all that seemed like a big, long process, Rich. But looking back now, it's like, God, that all happened in like a year. I mean, the time between the first demo and being in the studio to record a Crystal Vision was maybe almost 2 years. Almost
Barely.
2 years.
Barely.
Barely 2 years. And we thought we were never going to get signed.
Well,
And
let's talk
here
about
you
that.
are
How did
saying, bam.
Mercenary
I
Records
knew it.
find you? Did they approach you?
I knew it every second.
Yeah, they did. What happened was, there was an interviewer or reviewer reviewed the Shadow Out of Time demo in Metal Edge magazine. They had a demo review section, because up and coming bands it was the metal that, now what we do is considered, my God, classic style, almost classic rock, my God.
Yeah.
But back then it was new, cutting edge thrash, and new bands were exciting. So they had a demo review section, and a guy by the name of Sal Trapedi reviewed our Shadow Out of Time demo, and
The Earl of Erie.
very favorably. And then next thing you know, he got hired by Mercenary Records, and before you knew it, we got, that's how things work. And then he was hired by Mercenary. We got an offer from Mercenary, and next thing you know, we were in the studio recording a Crystal Vision.
And then he was our road manager.
Yeah, and then he became our manager.
How long was
So,
it before the
Sal
album
kinda
came
took
out?
us
You were
under
still in
his
high
wing.
school, and then you went on your tour.
Yeah, well, I remember going to my principal and saying, all right, well, my band just signed a recording contract, and we're going into the studio in early May, because it was the winter time.
At this point, I was 20, Pete was 19, Rob was 17, and Glenn was 17.
Right. So Pete and Kenny had recently graduated and were, working and going to college and just getting started and all that. And of course, we were all doing a lot of partying in Pete's apartment.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, right. But that's the only thing Kenny doesn't remember. But what happened was, I remember going to my principal and saying, "Look, I don't know how I'm going to finish the year," and I was a good student, so I didn't want to just blow it off.
Yeah.
And he said, "You know what? You're so on track. If you just double up on your English's fall semester now, we'll let you out in January." And that's what I did. So I graduated early and was available and prepared for when we went into the studio, which Kenny was April or May.
Something like that, yeah.
Because I remember going in the studio at 17 and coming out and being 18. and
That's what it did to us.
Yeah. And that was basically what happened. And then before the record even came out, yes, we did in November, I think, of '87, we went and did a tour in the Midwest, and Sal came with us, and yeah,
Who'd you go on
we were
tour with?
playing
Which
shows to
bands?
support.
Detroit, Cleveland,
No,
Chicago,
which bands?
Philadelphia.
Oh, we were always playing with other bands that were local to the area.
Well,
So
we played with Hammer On in Chicago. We played with Dogs of Doom in Cleveland. We played with Warlock with Doro Pesh
Yes.
in
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Right.
Yep, that was a good one. We played with Fate's
And
Warning.
Fate's Warning
Yes.
in Hartford.
To
Yep,
me,
we
you played with the
Fate's Warning.
best. You played with the best lineup of Fate's Warning. I love the first three albums: Night and Brock and Spectre
Yeah.
Within and Awaken the Guardian. To me, the John Arch years are my favorite personally.
Oh
It-
yeah.
No
Well,
que-
there was
no
something
question.
there was something very special and very unique going on in that era. And those guys were, you want to talk about mentors. I mean, Sal Trapedi took us under his wing and he really helped us get our start. And so did the guys in Fate's Warning. I mean, especially Jim Matheos, who had become good friends with Pete. And we would go up there and watch rehearsals and hang out in Jim's apartment and talk about, what was going on in the scene and things that we maybe needed to do to move to the next level. And then they gave us a shot opening up for them. And the next thing you know, we were headlining, at the West Hartford Ballroom. So we learned a lot from them business wise. We learned a lot from them. Obviously, we were massively influenced by their writing style.
Oh, we used to do the apparition.
Right. Yeah. Especially, I would say, that Spectre Within album was a massive influence on a lot of Sacred Oath material.
Yeah.
That was probably that and Awaken are my two favorite albums of theirs. But even Night and Brock is just a great rock and roll album. So did you only play Connecticut dates with them, or did you go play other states with that?
No,
only
Connecticut. Yeah.
Now you were together, you went on tour. What happened after that? Because I know Mercenary Records had some issues. So how long were you together before things started to fall apart?
Well, Kenny, it was about Kenny. I would say it was almost a year from the record release until we kind of went our own ways, right? Because the record we thought was going to really come out. The record is copyrighted and protect. If you look on the back of the original pressing, it says 1987. But if I remember correctly, it was like the first week of January '88.
Yeah.
Because the label was already having a hard time.
Yeah.
And December of '88, Sacred Oath was done.
Band broke up.
We were frustrated. We felt like things weren't happening the way we wanted them to happen. We had a record label that was not as supportive as we had hoped that they would be, that was having financial difficulties. And then all of a sudden that started to breed, all of a sudden we had creative differences and things and the thing was, Rich, is that when it seemed like your opportunities were all of a sudden stifled and you're 18, 19 years old, and this has all happened very quickly for you, then you just move on to the next thing, which seems outrageous, but at the time it made perfect sense. I don't know what else to say.
Well, what was the next thing for you?
Well,
Accelerate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Started a band called Accelerate.
Yeah, it was
Band called Accelerate.
XLR8. I remember that, and I saw you guys at the Brickenwood. Was the music similar in style?
It was a little sharper and it was a little more accessible to listen to. It was whereas Sacred Oath was
poppier.
Yeah.
It was poppier in its lyrics, but it was still very aggressive in its playing. The drums, the guitar playing, the singing was still challenging. It wasn't, it's not like Sacred Oath, that, you know, 3 out of the 4 guys of Sacred Oath had just turned into Firehouse or something like that. It was still, it was more attuned to like almost a Bark at the Moon sound, or a very quick, almost not holy die, stand up and shoutish,
Yeah, I agree.
Queensryche.
And why?
You're right. It was a
Whereas we
little
went
more
from,
mainstream.
But
yeah,
it
it was
was
more
more-
mainstream.
no, what I was gonna say was, what I wanted to ask you was, did you do that not because that you weren't getting along anymore, because the band stayed together and you just changed your name, but were you changing styles of music because your tastes were changing?
Well, it changed because the record company went under.
Yeah.
And everybody was kind of demoralized at the time. So Pete, you know, we love Pete, but Pete wanted to go super, super heavy.
Oh, 12.
And that's cool,
Yep.
you know, and if you look ahead 2 years, Pete made a good decision for Pete, but the rest of the guys wanted to go in a somewhat different direction, and that's when the first Accelerate demo came about, and it was much more accessible
It was
to
melodic.
listen to.
Yeah.
What's that?
I-
Super
More
melodic.
I
Very
definitely
melodic.
remember them, and I remember seeing you guys, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed them just as much as Sacred Oath. I thought it was really catchy tunes, great lyrics. I don't remember as clearly as I do Sacred Oath, but I do remember
Some of
enjoying it.
those songs, probably at least half of that demo, those songs were written at Sacred Oath practices.
Oh.
So, you know, it's a 7-song demo. Probably 4 or 5 of those songs were written when we were still in Sacred Oath.
Yeah. And,
How long did that band last?
Say again, Rich?
I was gonna
2
say,
years.
how long did 3 years?
2 years.
2 years. So you guys were together for 2
Yeah.
years with Accelerate.
If that. If
89
that,
and
probably
9.
1 year, because, you know, if Sacred Oath officially dissolved at the end of 87, beginning of 88, well, into 88, but by 89, we were already Accelerating. We were moving to California.
All right. So you took the band to California. And what happened after that?
Because the wheels came completely off the bus. Well-
we recorded another 4 songs. We recorded For You, which was probably the crown jewel of the Accelerate experience, and another 3 songs we did out in the San Bernardino area there, where a buddy that we had met had a studio up there, and we did another 3 songs. And after that, things started to dissolve a bit.
How long were you in California before you came back?
Oh, long time.
Right.
Kenny,
I was out there for about 4 years.
Okay.
Rob?
Yeah, about 4 years. I
Yeah.
ended up starting college out there, and then transferred to New York City and finished college in New York, and then I started playing and recording with Soundscape, and then it was until 1998, and I'm sure sounds like this is where you're heading, Rich, is in 1998 I got an email. Email was a new thing back then. It had been around for a few years, from a guy named Dennis Gulby. Said,
Yeah.
Hey, I see your band Soundscape. I know who you are. You're the guy from Sacred Oath, and you have no idea, but you guys have like a cult following all over the place. And I have a record label and I want to reissue your album, A Crystal Vision. How can we make that happen? And I was like, what are you talking about? People even remember who Sacred Oath is. And this was, I don't know if you know much about Sentinel Steel, but it was one of those revival labels that in the late 90s, early 2000s, that all of a sudden that late 80s style power metal, speed metal started making a big comeback. And Sacred Oath was a band that he was fixated on.
Bruce Dickinson rejoined Iron Maiden, so
yeah. So yeah. So and at the time I was oh my God, I was working a lot in the studio. I was touring and recording with Soundscape. I was writing rock operas and doing
America the Beautiful.
Albums.
I remember America the Beautiful was rock opera. I remember having that in cassette. And then so around that time, that's when they said they wanted to reissue the album or reissue Sacred. Is that when you did a Crystal Revision?
What happened is that he wanted a couple bonus tracks, and I said because I had a studio even then, and then it turned into, well, Kenny sounded so good. Kenny and I had not played together in like 8 years. And it was great to get back in the same room together. And Pete came out and it was like, oh my God, we started to play these songs and they just came right back. And like we hadn't missed a beat. Like 8 years had never happened, which is amazing because it's not like Sacred Oath is easy stuff. There's a lot going on, and it was like, ping. It was like, wow. So we said, well, let's just record the whole record. plus a couple bonus tracks.
It helps when your drummer has never stopped listening to all of the stuff that we had recorded in the past for the past decade. I always kept that.
Well, thank you, Kenny.
Well, that helped particularly though, Kenny, with Darkness Visible.
God.
Was Darkness Visible the first album that you came back on after when you reformed again? Was that the first album that you reformed with? I mean, besides the Crystal Revision, we know you put that out. Some extra tracks. Yeah. Then Darkness Visible.
And by the way, it's been brought to my attention, Rich, that it is the 15th anniversary of Darkness Visible.
Wow.
Next month, Kenny.
Oh my God.
Well, happy anniversary, the 35th anniversary, Crystal Vision, 15th anniversary, Darkness Visible. I do have to say my favorite song, and I love the video too, Words Upon the Stone. That is such a great song. And the video, I just watched it again the other night. I love that video. You guys in the cemetery jamming out.
Rob wrote that song for what was supposed to be the second record of our contract with Mercenary. Rob wrote that song. We practiced it to death in Glenn's basement while we were practicing for Crystal Vision tour dates. That Words Upon the Stone, Dream Death, Darkness Visible, Lurking Fear, which ended up on Fallen.
I want to stop you right there for a second. Fallen is the first album where you had the original lineup once again, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. And we how do I explain this? We finished some unfinished business with Fallen because there were songs that they were supposed to be on the second record on our contract with Crystal Vision that never made it to tape. Lurking Fear, Dream Death, even Death Knell was one of the early songs that Rob wrote, which predates Crystal Vision. Lurking Fear is a song that Pete wrote. That a lot of this stuff was supposed to be on the second album that was after Crystal Vision from our contract with Mercenary.
Yeah.
And then they went under, and a lot of that stuff got lost. So for Darkness Visible to come out, and then for Fallen to come out, it kind of tied up a lot of loose ends for the band, and got some of the really good songs that they had written early on to be published.
Now, what happened with that? Was Fallen just supposed to be a one-time deal with the original lineup, and then they were going to go Pete and Glenn were going to go their own ways again and take the, or was
Yeah, there
do you
was
think
never
that they were
any
going?
plan to tour.
They
There
were
was
never
never
going-
any plan to tour. Yeah, let
Okay.
me tell you how that
Right.
record started out. That record, it was 2013 was coming up, and that meant it was going to be the 25th anniversary of A Crystal Vision. And I was exhausted. Kenny knows. I was burned out. We put out a record a year. We were putting out
Yeah.
a record a year. Like, who does that anymore? I mean, that was fine in the 80s and the 70s when everybody was doing cocaine. But it was like,
Right.
I had a family. I had 3 small children. Plus, we're putting out a record a year and playing all the time. And we got to 2013, and I was just cooked. And I said, I can't do another record this year. Let's do an EP and have it just be a couple old songs, and we'll get Glenn and Pete, and it'll be a celebration to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Crystal Vision. And of course,
How'd that work out, Rob?
yeah, it ended up becoming an entire record. And a good one at that.
Oh yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
album. I love that
It's a
album.
good record. And that's right when, unfortunately, that's also right when Sandy Hook happened.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
when we were recording, that was right during that, which was literally
Yeah.
like 5 miles from my house.
Yep.
So that became a part of
Very
the
interesting
thematic,
time.
the lyrical element of that record. That threaded its way into that.
Right.
It's a dark record. It's a very dark record.
What is
Yeah.
your
As
writing
much as
process? Go ahead. Sorry, Rob.
Well, as much as Sacred Oath has always explored the what it means to be human, and the how human nature falls short over and over again, that record, Fallen, is probably one of our darkest records. And I think it was because that presence of real evil was so close to home.
Real
when Sandy
close. Yeah.
happened. It was like, I mean, I had kids that age. Well, I had like a second cousin that was killed in that school.
Yeah.
So it was just like, yeah, it put me in a dark space lyrically. Real disappointment that of in what people are capable of anything. And yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
No, what I
No,
it was a
wanted,
dark
make-
record.
It makes for good metal.
Yeah.
what I wanted to
true.
say was, what's your writing process? Do you write the lyrics first, then the music, or do you come out with a beat and say, let me put some lyrics to this music?
No, I always write the lyrics last. Always write the lyrics last, because the real joy for me in writing, in the creative process, is playing guitar. So
Rob is the riff meister.
yeah, I love to sit
All about the
down and
riff.
play guitar.
Write the riff first.
Yep. I'll
What is-
sit down. The writing process for Sacred Oath is Rob goes up into the studio, picks up a guitar, and just starts having fun with a record button on. And the next thing you know, it's, hey, Kenny, check your email. There's a song in there for you. And it's like, bing, bing, bing.
This is awesome.
Bing, bing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like you ever have writer's block with writing music.
No, I don't. I don't
Yeah.
ever have
To the
writer's block.
contrary.
Yeah, it sounds that way, which is good because you
Yeah.
always have backup, and you probably have 3 or 4 albums worth of material that you haven't recorded yet. I'm assuming.
No, I don't. I don't.
Nope.
I
Okay.
not at this point. I don't have writer's block.
There are songs that are incomplete. Yes.
Yeah, there are, but I don't have tons of material waiting around to be
Right,
recorded.
right.
I'm never under pressure
That's the best part. Yeah.
produce. I'm never under pressure to produce. It's when you're under pressure to produce that you have writer's block.
Yeah.
But I don't ever get under that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
Kenny knows. Kenny will be the first one to be like, or even Damiano is like, so we're gonna do another album, right? And I'll be like, I don't know. Because what that means when I say I don't know, that means not until I haven't been inspired yet. I'm out living life. I'm out having fun mowing my lawn, thinking, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I want to go play guitar and write songs today. Bing, and then boom, 10 songs happen in like a month, 6 weeks.
Art. It's art. And art requires inspiration. And when you're not pressured by companies to tour for 10 months and stump for albums internationally, you kind of fly by your own, your own tempo. And it's a little bit of a luxury.
It really is, yeah.
Where we create music when we're inspired, and it's not a wrecking ball of corporate pressure.
Yeah, that's great. You could do it at whatever time you want. Rob, I have a question for you. So would you welcome a song if Damiano came up with a great idea for a song? Would you welcome that as a Sacred Oath song, or I know you're primarily the writer, you write all the songs, but would you welcome somebody else to either collaborate with or use one of their songs?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, Brendan wrote a song on World on Fire.
Okay.
And Billy, was always welcome to start contributing in the writing, but never really finished anything or brought much to the table. Kenny has written some of the great Sacred Oath songs, Bloodstorm, Wings of Salvation, At the Gates. Sometimes I feel bad because I know that when I start to work, I work very fast, and the guys can be overwhelmed like, what the hell? Like, you just said maybe we'll do a record, and now we've got 10 songs in the can, and I didn't even have a chance.
Rob does do that. But when the material is top notch, you have a hard time arguing with it. But that is true. He'll come out and he'll be like, yeah, let's start writing, guys. And a week later, in my inbox is 8 songs to demo. And I'm like, oh, okay. If I'm going to get anything on this record, I better write it now. So, but that's okay. It's just how it goes. And I've tried to contribute. Rob's stuff, it's Rob's baby. And it's all good. So, if by chance we did do another record, Rob will write a ton of great stuff, and I hope to get 1 or 2 in there. And we'd love to see Damiano or Scott get some great ideas in and contributions. And it's just how the band works.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love about that is because there's no egos involved, or it seems that I saw a documentary on Pink Floyd with Roger Waters and David Gilmour, and there was so much tension because they thought Roger was taking over the band and he wouldn't let them do anything. With this band, it's very collaborative, but they don't mind if Rob comes out with 12 songs in 12 minutes. Well, let's use them all. Who cares? I'll be on the next album.
This. There's no egos involved that I'm actually feeling bad that Damiano has hardly had a chance to talk at all right now. Jesus, you know.
Well, the good news
And
is I
it's
had an
funny
interview
you
with him
say that, 'cause
recently.
that happened in Torrington too. Billy and I just sat there.
That's why I had
chance,
to. That's why I had to have Damiano on his own show where we spoke for 2.5 hours.
Well, Rich, I'm sure you've got some questions for Dom, right?
I do. Well, actually, I do.
Okay, go.
Damiano, I want to talk about this because Rob, we want to thank you. You got Damiano out of his first job because it was at that time a job he hated, and you said, "Why don't you join Sacred Oath?" And because of that, he's no longer doing the job that he hated. And now he's in a rock band with you guys, one of the greatest.
True
progressive rock
story,
bands.
actually.
Yeah.
I was at a job in Southbury. I fucking hate it.
It's all because of you, Rob.
Was like, "Oh, you ever hear this band called Sacred Oath?" And I'm like, "No." And he sent me a link of the website, and I think the first thing I ever saw.
How old were you?
I was 18, I think, at the time I auditioned, and then I turned 19 when we started the tour.
Yeah,
Everybody joins this band when they're 18.
that's how it worked.
It's almost like
18 is
Menudo.
actually, but 18 is actually 9.
Yeah.
Oh, King Diamond reference.
Yeah, I got it. Did you ever have a chance to play with King Diamond?
Yeah, I did.
Rob did.
I played with King Diamond and Merciful Fate on the same night on Halloween.
Well, where was this?
I hate you.
At Tuxedo Junction.
Oh, that must have been a great show. What tour was this?
That was King Diamond on the
Puppet Master?
Graveyard? No, he was doing
Spider's
the Graveyard.
Lullaby?
It was the
okay.
Graveyard. And what was Merciful Fate's album at the same time? I can't remember.
Yeah, no, neither
Into
can I.
the Unknown. Into the Unknown.
Unknown.
Yeah, they were supposed to play a show on Halloween night at the Limelight in New York City. And that something happened. The Limelight got shut down by the health department or the cops or something. And
You think?
at the very last minute, that show got moved to Tuxedo Junction. And the owner of Tuxedo said, "We need an opener. You're doing it." I was like, "You're damn right I am." Oh God, I wish it was Sacred Oath, but it wasn't Sacred Oath. But that would have been.
That was,
Green with envy.
yeah, no, that would I.
Green.
No, King
I
Diamond was
love
one of my
it.
all-time
Great.
favorites, and I know what a big influence he was on you in the early years of Sacred Oath.
Oh God, I can remember being at Sneakers
Yes, Branford.
on the Fatal Portrait tour
Yeah.
in Branford, Fatal Portrait tour, and Megadeth opening up.
Megadeth
Blessed
opened
Death.
up.
It was
Yeah.
Megadeth, Blessed Death, and King Diamond. I saw that tour. I was
Oh
there.
my God. You know, you want to talk about influences on Sacred Oath. I mean, Megadeth and King Diamond. I mean, those two bands, we were
In a tiny little place.
Yes.
Tiny. You know.
Yeah.
Megadeth
was a
was
great night.
horrible.
Yeah, I remember.
was
You know what's funny? I
before
remember
Peace
so clearly
Sells.
Dave Mustaine saying, "Here's a new song. It's not released yet. It's gonna be a new album's gonna be called Peace Sells, but who's buying?" And they played that song. But yeah,
Yeah.
he just. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how long it was before he got kicked out of Metallica, but it wasn't that long when we saw that tour.
Yep.
A couple
It's
few
been like a
years.
year and a half.
That's why
Yeah.
so far I've had you guys on, David Ellison. Now all I need is King Diamond, and my show will be all set. 3 of my favorite bands
Yeah.
right there.
That's awesome.
So, who is the current lineup consist of?
Well, you got me, Kenny, Damiano, and Scott Waite.
Yeah, wait, okay.
Now,
Yeah.
you know, you I don't know if you've ever met Scott, but Scott was with us for Self-Titled,
Yep.
which was Counting Zeros. That's everybody knows Self-Titled from that song. And also he recorded the live album Till Death Do Us Part. So we've got a great history with Scott, and God, he's a monster. But I'll tell you, Rich, I don't say this lightly, because I've been very happy with every incarnation of Sacred Oath, but right now, the band is just firing on all cylinders. With Scott, just his bass playing style and his musicality, and Damiano and his obvious, musicality and musicianship and virtuosic talent, and not only that, but his enthusiasm.
He's okay.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, but it's that youthful, and
No, that's great.
People laugh because we keep bringing in these younger guys, and two of them have been my students. And people are always like, "Is Damiano your student?" I'm like, no, he was never my student. But because a big part of being in the band was not just being able to play, but believing in what it was we were doing.
Yeah.
Musically. And Damiano, believes in it all the way.
Yeah, he gets it.
He knows
gets it.
exactly what we're about. And when he plays, you'll find out on May 7th, when he plays a Crystal Vision with us, it sounds fantastic.
It's the real deal. Yeah.
I can hardly wait, because
the past rehearsals have been building to a point where it's really starting to get that feeling, that exciting feeling of a Crystal Vision. And Dom's been wonderful in terms of all of us recreating that sound. And it's not easy, because it's fast, it's quick, it's tight, it's an energetic, I hate to say youthful, because I'm not youthful anymore. But still, recreating it, having Dom involved is a big deal. Having Scott involved is a big deal. Rob's on top of his game, and I'm just trying to keep up.
Well, Kenny, you're doing a great job.
I hope so. Knock on wood.
Yep. And Rob, I know I saw you the other day at Crystal Bees, and I love your description of the place. I personally love Crystal Bees. I go see a lot of bands there. I've seen Damiano's band, Elm City Heartbreakers. You described it so perfectly. It's a casino for kids. Because for people who don't know, they have a Crystal Vision, Sacred Oath, May 7th, 35th anniversary. But for people who don't know, Crystal Bees is an arcade, bowling alley, but they have a place for music. It's a huge place. It's great. I think the acoustics sound really good. What was your opinion of that? Like, when I know you went and check it out, and I love the layout. I know that there's going to be a lot more people up by the stage banging their head, vying for that neck brace that you give away.
We actually were like, are we going to give a neck brace away at this show? Because
no, it's mine. It's mine. I need it. It's my neck brace.
It's funny. As the year, there came a point, I think it was when Dom first joined the band, and we first early on in 12 Bells tour, and I said to Kenny, Jesus, I don't know about the neck brace anymore. We got to start giving away a stretcher.
Let me ask you a question here. Damiano, what's it been? How's it been for you to try and recreate some of these solos and some of the harmonies, and to be working on some of the rhythms for trying to reproduce a Crystal Vision for a show that we're going to do. How's that been for you?
A lot of fun, actually. I get to sit here, and we've been doing Skype sessions, Rob and I, on like Monday
Mhm.
mornings, and I learned the record in 3 weeks in a row. We just banged out
Which is ridiculous. You know that, right?
yeah, and we like I videotaped everything, and I would just sit here in front of my laptop and watch the videos over and over again, and listen
Yeah.
to the record in the car every night after
Yeah.
work. I would just ingrain all those songs in my head. So it was like, okay, if I'm gonna recreate this, I gotta like surround myself with it. Because to be honest with you, I mean, I never listened to the whole record until we started doing this.
Right.
I only ever heard the songs that we played because I focused a lot on the stuff from 12 Bells, and then
Yeah.
Return of the Dragon stuff, and then all the other stuff we did from like Raven Song and Darkness Visible when we would do
Right.
12 Bells tour. Because I think when I started, we only did 2 songs off Crystal.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I had only
Yeah.
played Crystal and 2 Powers, I think, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Damiano and I were talking about when I interviewed him when he first was when you first asked him to join a band. He said that he had a bad taste with the local bands in Connecticut, and then he heard you guys like, whoa, this is what a local metal should sound like, because you have melodies, you have great lyrics, you have great music to back it up, great hooks. And he goes, most of the other bands we were talking about like are the Cookie Monster rap with no melody to it, no heart to it. And so yeah, you guys are like on another level for local bands, and this, I mean, that's why you're beyond local. I mean, you're famous. That's why somebody came to you 20 years later and said, "Yeah, we want to re-release that that album you did in 1987," because there's not a lot of bands that are doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the whole way that I met Damiano was that I had a meeting one day in my studio with the vice president of the company that handles the band's whole Universal Virgin Music distribution, and he had a guy with him, and who was like interning with him, and I was playing them mixes of 12 Bells. They wanted to hear the record, and I was playing the mixes before it was finished, and I said, I'm thinking about another guy to bring out on the road for this record so that I can not feel like I'm wearing hats at once on stage, and we can, a lot of times I overdub 3 guitar harmonies. Wouldn't it be fun to have all 3 going? And just, I told him that. And the guy he was with, his intern, said, "Oh, I got the guy for you. Have you heard of Damiano Christian?" I said, "No." He goes, "He's this kid. He's like 17 years old, but he's the perfect guy for you." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And then I called him, and I think we were auditioning people. And he said, "Yeah, well, the guy's playing at this club about 40 minutes from you in his Ozzy tribute band." But I said, "Okay, I'll go up and check him out." And I walked in there, and I was like, "Oh." When I saw, it wasn't just the fact that Damiano was talented and artistic, but it was you see right away his level of commitment to what it is you're after expressing. And I was just overwhelmed by that. I'm like, that's the guy. That's the guy. This is the guy. He believes in the same things that we believe in. And he's pouring his whole heart and soul into it. Now, granted, it was Randy Rhoads' music, but I could tell that he would do the same thing for Sacred Oath, because anybody joining Sacred Oath in 2017 was going to be covering a lot of stuff that had already been recorded. So that's what we were talking about doing. And right away, when I told Kenny, I said, "I want this kid to come up," and we played, and right away we knew we all got along very, very well. And and it was a great relationship for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, I really honestly, Rich, didn't anticipate recording Return of the Dragon. And when it came time to start talking about that with Kenny, I said, how could we not bring Damiano in full time as the band member for this record? I mean, we have to. I mean, we'd be idiots not to.
Yeah,
have to. Yeah.
And oh my God, I mean, have you heard the outro solo on Empire's Fall?
Yeah.
Do I have to say anything else?
No, you can stop right there. And I talked. He and I, Damiano, can talk about it in this interview too. We talked about your dedication to everything you do, starting with the piano, age 3, all the way up through guitar, where you'll practice before school, after school, anytime you have a chance. Just during school. So I mean, you're as Rob said, your dedication is out the doors. You're whatever you put your heart to, whatever you want to do, you do it 1,000%. So I think he's a perfect fit for Sacred Oath, and I agree with you. I love this lineup, and I could see that you're refreshed. There's no all the past hassles. You don't really have that anymore. You all get along, which is very important to be in a band. You have to get along, and you're making great music now. And I can see this. I can't wait to see Return of the Dragon, the 35th anniversary of that. When you guys are on tour.
Oh. I don't want to.
Someone's gonna
That'll
send Rob
probably
an email.
That'll end up being Damiano, Rocco, and a couple other guys.
Someone's gonna send Rob an email saying, you know, there's a cult following for this Return of the Dragon album. And it all starts over again.
The circle. Or the
Goes
cycle.
on.
The
cycle goes on.
Oh my God. How much fun are we having playing the beginning at rehearsal?
Oh my God. And Message to the Children.
You know what's funny? I listened to the album again not too long ago. I still remember all the lyrics.
Isn't it
35 years
amazing?
later, yeah. So I remember one time Rob said, he was, Rich, I can't look at you when you're in the front row because you're singing and I'm following your singing. What I'm trying to do.
I know. I remember that. It's true. I said, thank God you're standing there. Every time I forget something, I just look down at your lips.
The best was in 2008. It was the first time I saw you guys when you reformed. I went to see, I can't remember where I saw you, but I won the neck brace that year. And you didn't even recognize me. You're like, wait, Rich, is that you? I said, yep.
When was that, Rich?
That was 2008. I can't remember where it was, but you just got back together again. It was the
Empress.
That was on the Darkness Visible tour.
Yes, Darkness Visible tour.
The Empress, Danbury.
Yes, that's what it was.
Either there or Tuxedos.
No, it was the Empress because I've been I've seen you guys at Tuxedo plenty of times. It was definitely a different place. So the Empress, but yeah.
Do you remember who played the other guitar? Was it Glenn or Bill?
Bill. Yeah, Glenn wasn't in the band when I saw him.
It was Empress.
Yep. Now is Glenn doing his own thing now?
Yeah, Glenn's
He's doing his own thing, but the word on the street is he might show up at the show.
I was gonna say Claw's Corner exclusive, but you didn't hear a thing. Secret safe with me and my 5 viewers.
That's gonna be
What
a
do I
fun
know?
moment.
What do I know?
Rich,
I'm
we are
just a
so
drummer.
excited. We are so excited about this, about getting out there again. We haven't played in 3 years. Like, Kenny, I'm driving Kenny nuts. I'm like, Kenny's trying to get on with his day, and I'm like texting him like, let's do this in the show. Hey, what if we do this? What if we actually resurrect the ferryman from the underworld and get him to come out on stage? Kenny's like, Kenny, every time his phone buzzes, he's like, oh no. Kenny just starts writing back things like, you want to add any more songs? You better start dropping some.
my interview with Damiano, we were talking about the old Sacred Oath, and we were talking about how you used to have, the darkness and the light, and Pete used to wear the cape, and you used to be the light side.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going back that far.
I know.
You made Scott wear a cape.
Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, the funny thing is Scott would love nothing more than to wear a cape, but I don't think
Only because he thinks he's a superhero, but that's another reason.
Yeah.
That's another
no,
story.
he would wear a cape because Chris Squire wore a cape, and he loves Chris Squire.
Well, there it is.
Yep. The truth comes out.
The yes connection.
Yep. Oh man. Well, I am very much looking forward to the show. I can't. Hopefully, the place is packed, and with all the oath bangers, old and new.
Oath bangers, the oath bangers.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Come on, people.
Yeah.
Right. Let the underground surface.
Yes.
They're gonna come crawling out of their nooks and crannies.
I'll be crawling my way to the Crystal Bees. I can't wait for that. It's May
7th. That was the funniest thing as I walk into that place last weekend, and they got a huge crystal geode right in the front of the building.
Yeah.
I was like, this is kind of weird. It's called Crystal Bees. There's a geode in the front door. I'm like,
the weird full circle type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, it's all kind of meant to be.
It's a perfect way to have your debut after 3 years, ready to rock and roll. So you're going to be playing the full. What was that?
You want to hear something?
What?
What I was going to say, you're playing the whole album in its entirety, and are you going to be doing other songs as well?
Yeah, we're gonna do all of Crystal Vision. We're gonna do most of Return of the Dragon, and then we'll do a couple other songs from other records, but that's gonna be the bulk of it.
And then I will need the jumper cables.
Yeah. And then you'll hear me shouting, "Clear!
Clear!" Good job.
So the stretcher really isn't for the fans; it's more for the band members.
Yeah.
As we're taking you off stage.
It'll be great. Looking forward to it.
You have a plan to take this album on tour? Go all over the place? Or is this like a one-time deal for now?
No, I'll tell you right now, this whole, you're talking about the show that we're presenting, because this is really a show, the Crystal Vision album in its entirety, plus Return of the Dragon and a couple other songs. Our plan is to do that show in 5 to 10 key cities.
Okay.
So, Southington, which is basically Hartford, Connecticut, New York City. We'll probably have a date for that in the next week. I've been going back and forth with a promoter there. I'm talking to a promoter in Cincinnati. We're looking at doing a show in Pennsylvania. I'm talking to a promoter in Milwaukee. I'm talking to a promoter in Chicago. Talking to a promoter down in Georgia. And of course, we're getting requests to go back overseas. And I would love to get this show over into Belgium and Germany and Spain and Italy. And also, I really want to get the band onto the West Coast of the United States. So we'll see if we can get something to happen maybe in Los Angeles. But if you're not going to see the band go out on the road for a month, it's going to be, boom, go do a show. Boom, bring this show here and there to key cities kind of thing. Over the next couple of years.
But that leads to my next question. So I was going to ask you, does day jobs for some of the band members interfere with going on tour? Because it must be tough for you at this point. Like Rob, I know that music is your day job. So for some of the other members who have other things to do, is it tough to say, all right, I need to take a couple weeks off to go on tour? But obviously what you're doing now is perfect because you can play a show somewhere, come back and be ready for work on Monday.
Yeah, that's how we're gonna do it. I can't, I don't, we would have to be offered a pretty incredible opportunity to disappear for 3 weeks.
I know.
So right now it's one-offs,
That's
which is
great.
just fine. We're, at this point, the way things are going, we're lucky if we can get through the one-offs, right? I mean, at this point, I'm like, okay, COVID, hold on until after May 7th.
I mean, so far it's been good. I went to a Toe's Place last night, and I went to another show at the Bushnell, and both times I didn't need to show my vaccination card, didn't need to wear a mask. So things right now are lightening up. Hopefully it stays that way until, like you just said, something's going to happen. Like, all right, we have to go back to stage 2 or whatever it is, stage 1. So I'm hoping that is the case. I'm hoping that we're past that. We have to move on, and that you can. But I'm not sure. Do you know what the other countries are like? Like you said, you mentioned Italy, Spain. I wonder what I think it's a lot worse.
Europe is terrible right now.
That's what I heard. Yeah, so it must be.
Really there's just nothing you can't. A band like us, Rich. There's no way we can afford to book something extensive and then have the rug get pulled out from under us at the last minute. No band can really afford that, but even less us. So we find ourselves like, literally looking at over the last couple of years, I'm looking at the historical peaks and valleys and saying, well, seems like May, things are always low. Let's book a show in May. Literally, I'm talking to a guy in Cincinnati. It's like, okay, well, over the last 2 years, when's it been low? All right, let's look at a date in there and we'll come do one show. Europe is tough because it's I don't know. They haven't had many lows over there for very long. It's been crazier.
So you're doing all the booking then. You don't have somebody booking your shows?
All the booking right now. All the booking goes through me.
Really self-made band over here. You have your own studio. You do your own bookings. That's good.
Oh, you have no idea. You're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, but it must feel good to have that kind of freedom. You don't have to rely on other people to get things done.
It is very artistically freeing. It can be exhausting and it can be frustrating. And it definitely can be very limiting. But you got to count your blessings where you got them. I mean, how lucky am I to be able to say, hey, Kenny, why don't you do a painting for every song on the record? And he says, okay.
Oh, God. Every song? Every song?
We didn't discuss this, Rob. What are you talking about? Oh, man.
I mean, that's great. It's so fun. I mean, what are we doing this for? We're doing it for fun. What else are we doing it for? And Kenny and I have a great fun developing artistic ideas. And it's great to have someone like Damiano involved, who's like so enthusiastic and so excited to perform, and God puts his whole soul into crafting a solo,
absolutely,
for a spot in a song to just completely capture a vibe. And,
someone who gets it.
That's what we're doing this for.
Yeah. And
to
Scott,
feel like we've lived our life the way we wanted to.
Perfect. So I love it. I know you guys are on a time limit here. You went over, so I really do appreciate that. Before we go, is there anything else that any of you want to add?
Well, give Damiano a chance to talk a little more. Jesus.
Like I said, Damiano and I had a chance to speak for almost 3 hours the other couple weeks ago. But whatever else you want to say. Yeah. So I mean, Damiano, you can go first. You have anything you want to add?
I'm having a lot of fun playing the Crystal Vision stuff, and I'm really having a lot of fun recreating it too. And I mean, I was telling the guy,
he's nailing it.
Yeah.
Nailing it.
I was telling the guys, I'm like, shit, I wish I was around when you guys were all writing this stuff. And actually
Yeah.
playing it around at my age, when
Yeah.
I had joined
Yeah.
the band, I was their age when they had started it.
I know. That's
You
funny because
know?
you're their age when they were coming out with Crystal Vision. So
Yeah.
It's
Well,
kind
yeah.
of freaky.
Yeah.
It's kind of freaky. Yeah.
it's almost like
Well,
it's funny to do
Dom-
an episode where you're looking at the past right in front of you as he's playing guitar right next to you.
it's a
When-
big thing for me, Rich, with it's really, I really appreciate playing with Damiano because the whole twin guitar thing, we're doing stuff together that even Glenn and I never did. Like Damiano will be like, oh, well, in Magic Sun, there's that one measure where the solo's harmonized. Let's do that measure in harmony. And I'm like, okay, cool. We never did that before, but why not? Like, it's well, what more can you ask for than to have someone that's that excited about it that they're getting you to have to like, okay, let me learn that real quick.
That's great. He definitely
Awesome.
brings that enthusiasm into the band, and
Oh,
I've never saw him play with Sacred Oath yet, but I've definitely seen him play with his other band, and I know that the enthusiasm that he shows when he's playing guitar, and he's, as they call him,
you wait.
I know, I'm looking forward to it. What about you, Kenny? You have anything you want to add?
When we're doing rehearsals and we're getting into the guitar solo of a song like Magic Sun or something like that, and we're doing the rhythm part, and Damiano's solo comes up, and we haven't done it in quite a while, and we start doing it, and as Damiano starts his solo, Rob turns around and looks at me like, that's how it's supposed to sound. that was a fun moment at practice. So that's when you know things. That's when you know things are coming together.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
You know, it would be great because I know you released that live album several years ago. I think you guys should do a live album of this tour.
Oh, we're talking about it already.
All right, another Claw's Corner exclusive, maybe.
Can you imagine a band like
Perhaps.
Sacred Oath? Can you even imagine a band like Sacred Oath having 3 live albums? I mean,
Well, didn't Iron Maiden record like 3 live albums for this past tour or something like that? So why not?
I say why not?
The difference between our live albums and most live albums is that they're all actually recorded at one show.
Oh, yeah.
Usually we don't know they're being recorded.
Well, isn't
Right.
that what happened with I think it was Brooklyn, if I'm correct, the live album?
No,
And Queens, okay, so you heard
yeah.
it, and then you said, well, we should release this as a live album. You heard what it sounded like, and you said, this sounds great. Wasn't that not even supposed to be a live album, but you turned into one because you liked how it sounded?
Well, Ken,
We had a
tell the
good
story.
night.
Tell the story, Kenny.
Oh
no,
God.
who was it? Damiano. I don't know. I don't really know. Is somebody was walking up. We were walking up to take the stage, and I said,
We
"Oh, I
were
just
we
talked
were
to me."
setting up. We were setting up, and I was asking for a couple of extra mics on a couple of toms. And the guy who was doing sound, Alexi, great guy, really calm, really smooth demeanor, and he, as we were getting ready to start, he kind of taps Rob on the shoulder and he goes, "Hey, mind if I record this tonight?" And Rob's like, yeah, sure. And a week later, Rob emailed me what Alexi had sent to him, and the capture that Alexi got from that night was so good. We had a really good night. down in Queens with Damiano, and it was Brendan, and it was Billy and Rob, and it was just one of those. We were at the bottom of the rainbow that night where everything worked out. It's just a one night performance, and it was a great capture by our sound guy, and it turned into a live album that some of those songs are some of my favorite versions of those songs, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, you know what? I love the way Two Powers came out on that record.
I really do. I know. Most of those songs, Crystal Vision, Ferryman's,
Yeah.
12 Bells, all of them. We had a good night that night. So
Yeah.
I agree.
we're
I have that album, and I agree. It captures that raw energy, the enthusiasm, and just I love those versions as well. So that's why I think that I know you're going to have some kick-ass shows on this tour with Crystal Vision. I would love to see this as a live album. You know what? Forget it. Let's just do a live DVD. I'd like to see.
Now you're talking.
Yes.
Oh boy.
That's what I'd like to see. Kenny can do the art.
Oh, believe me, there's plenty of Kenny's art all over the stage for this show.
Yeah, there is. There is some. It'll be fun. Gonna have a good night.
Oh yeah.
Brought to you by
May
Kenny
7th.
Evans Marshall.
And what about you,
Yes.
Rob? Yeah, do you have anything you want
Well,
to say?
man,
Any last
Mitch,
words?
My last words are just that the older I get, the more grateful I am to be in a situation where someone like yourself is interested in talking to me about how much fun we're having. So thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And-
Did you ever think 37 years ago you'd still be doing this, playing in this band?
I never thought
Yes.
that far.
Kenny
I
always
never
did.
thought that far. Kenny
The
always,
answer for me
Yeah.
is yes.
yeah. In fact, if I want to know what's happening in 5 years, I just ask Kenny and he draws up a sketch and he shows me. But for me, I'm always,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just following Kenny's plan.
Yeah,
Kenny,
that's
I love your plan. You got a great plan going. So I'm looking forward to, I said, another 35 years of great music by Sacred Oath.
That's right, Kenny. This is all your fault.
Oh my God. We're gonna have to talk.
Right now we're seeing a Sacred Oath is currently breaking up right here live in the Close Corner. That's
I am
funny.
looking forward to May 7th.
Yes, me as well. And check it out. Crystal Beast is a great place. Sacred Oath is a great band featuring Damiano, Rob Thorne, Kenny Evans, and sorry, who's the other player?
Scott Waite.
Scott Waite. Yes, I know. I have met him before, and I've seen him play before, but I forgot what his name. So Scott Waite, Kenny Evans.
Were you at Toads? Were you at the Toads show?
Yes. So I
But you
did,
played
actually,
that.
I did see Damiano.
Scott.
Sorry. Yeah. Yep.
That
Yeah,
was
Scott
Scott.
played that show on 1 week's notice.
Wow. So you have these people that are coming like Damiano. All right, I need you to learn 3 albums in 2 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
You're known for putting people under pressure.
We're good at that.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
We have 15 albums. Learn them by next week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just wrote 12 new songs. You better learn those too.
Yeah.
It was great talking to you guys. I cannot wait to see you.
Thank you, Rich.
All right.
Thank you, Rich.
Much appreciated.
Have a great night. That wraps up the latest episode of the Claws Corner. A special thanks goes out to Rob Thorne, Kenny Evans, and Damiano Christian of the power metal band Sacred Oath. Make sure to check their debut at Crystal Bees in Southington on May 7th as they perform a Crystal Vision live in its entirety and much, much more. I would also like to thank John Bristol of Elmwood Productions for always doing a superb job editing the show each and every week. And last but not least, I would like to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone. All right.
Thanks, man.
Wait 1 second.
From the frenetic mind of author Rich Sear. 5 terrifying short stories, now available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror, available on Amazon.